I just hit go live.
Okay, cool.
Hello, good people, and welcome. We are finally here. We are back. Welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to this YouTube channel, as well as the Ufulu Child YouTube channel. And for those of you out there in the other channel, I'm going to let the other channel introduce itself in just a moment. But we are going to start off today by looking at a clip from yesterday's episode that'll kind of set the tone before we introduce our super duper special guest. Y'all have no idea what's about to happen in your brains and the connections you're about to make to the world that you see around you and the world that's affecting our children and what we want to do in the universe. I'm so very excited. So welcome. What's good? Where y'all from? Put something in the chat and check this out.
In the early 1900s, there was another education system that existed parallel to...
Okay, so here's where he's getting ready to get into the other class of people that will also endure schooling, but this is a much smaller percent of the population. Check it out.
In the early 1900s, there was another education system that existed parallel to public schools, private classical academies. These schools taught Latin, Greek, philosophy, advanced mathematics, rhetoric. They produced the lawyers, doctors, politicians, and business owners who would run society. Guess who attended these schools? The children of the wealthy, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts. The ruling class sent their kids to institutions that taught critical thinking, leadership, and classical knowledge.
Critical thinking, leadership, and classical knowledge were not in the list of things set up for the other class, for the 99%, for the us. Interesting. What else did this other class of students get?
Meanwhile, everyone else's children were funneled into a system designed to produce compliant workers. Two different education systems, two different outcomes. In the early 1900s.
All right. So now that the stage is set, we have a very special guest today, guys. We have, first of all, a great friend of the show, as Coach Colin likes to say, but also a great friend indeed in life. Someone that inspired a lot of trains of thought and rabbit holes that I ended up going down in my unfinished journey. Just a whole lot of really, really, really great and impactful things came from my meeting and interacting with this person. Miss Kali Fontanilla, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, I guess. Welcome your first time to this show. Welcome back to doing a show with me for the third time. How's it going?
This feels very full circle because you were one of the first people that I connected with online and did podcasts with. And now here we are 3 years later. I haven't done much. I am burnt out. I'm tired, but I feel like this is a rebirth. So this is the beginning again. So we're beginning again together. And It's nice to be back. It's nice to be back. And if anyone is from my YouTube channel, thank you for being here. I'm so sorry I neglect my YouTube family, but I've been neglecting all of my social media family for a while. But sometimes you just got to take care of yourself.
For sure. Sometimes you just gotta, kind of get off of the socials, even just get off of devices in general. Go touch some grass, go get some sunlight.
There's just so much bad news. We haven't had a lot of wins. Like, where's the good news? We need some good news.
For real. Also, you guys, make sure you follow Kali on her socials and stuff. She's got a wealth of information. Some of you guys are already on her channel literally right now. I just want to also display your Fontanilla, not Tainea. There we go. I want to also put your YouTube on. Here we go. at Real Kali Fontanilla on YouTube. Great stuff. Okay. We in there. And we are going to talk about something you know and knew as an insider, an ex-insider, whistleblower type. You know what I'm saying? Robin Hood. Taken from the king, giving back, the taxes that he stole from the good people of the place. And we're talking about the education system or the lack thereof, whatever kind of floats somebody's boat as far as the language goes.
Where did you go to school, So?
To college, I went to Morehouse in Atlanta.
And where'd you go? Did you go to public school as a kid?
Yeah, I went to. Well, I did both. So I did. Genius is very prevalent in younger, and like the younger you go, the more genius the kids get, right? And so I had that, and I have a very active mind. I have a very creative mind,
which our schools try to quelch and get rid of. They don't want you to be very creative.
But my parents noticed, and so my adopted parents, she noticed, and she had me in leadership programs and private schools. I went to a Montessori school. For those of you who don't know how Montessori works, you basically, as the student, as the second grader, choose. You have a lot of autonomy. You have a lot of you get to choose how you're going to structure your day and go through your subjects and, just kind of how that's going to go. And after that, a little bit more private school. Then when I got to public school, I never went back to private school. A part of that was me, a part of that I saw what I thought were benefits. They weren't benefits, but what I thought were benefits of staying with certain friend groups that are no longer my friends, and none of us know each other anymore. And some of them I've heard are in funny situations now in life, and I wish them the best because they don't have the best. And whatnot. But I took advantage of fitting in with public school culture. But even by the time I was born, private school was already basically public school anyway. It's just a little bit more pristine.
Diet Pepsi versus Pepsi.
Okay. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Seltzer water, but with aspartame,
exactly.
Instead of sugar. So, that's where I went. Did you go to public school?
I went to private school, kindergarten through 8th grade. And then I went to public school for high school.
Okay. What was that transition like?
It was hard for me. I actually begged my mom to go back to private school because I lost all my friends the summer of my sophomore year. And then I was a loner in high school, and I wasn't doing well academically. And I knew that public school was just not serving me like the private school. But my mom couldn't afford it. She had 3 kids, single mom, and she was actually really happy when I stopped going to private school in 8th grade. And I begged her to go to public school because I was like, I want to be cool. I don't like this dorky Christian school you have me in, right? And then I was begging her by the time I was at the end of my sophomore year, like, I want to go back to the private school. And she was like, no, Kali, I can't afford it. So I ended up graduating early. I took the high school proficiency exam. I got out early, and I went to junior college at 16. And I don't know how I passed that exam because I wasn't very academically strong, but somehow I passed that exam, and junior college was the best place for me. And I think I'm so glad I never went straight to a 4-year university, did that whole route, because junior colleges had, at least during that time, had some great professors, and they had really good remedial classes to get you caught up. And so I was in this basic English class and really kind and patient professors. And I was a 16-year-old, so they were extra understanding with me because they were like, you're behind, but you're also only 16. So it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And then I love being able to choose my classes, being able to take dance classes, being able to take art classes. I remember I took a sociology class at 16. I loved it. I want to study people and human beings,
Yes.
And you don't get that in high school. You have all
you don't get none of that.
No. And then I love being able to make my own schedule. That was huge. I only had to go to school 3 days a week. So that's why I used to always tell my high school students, if you think that college is like high school and like public school, you have something, you have it totally wrong, right?
Yeah.
It is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
so
absolutely.
yeah. And then I ended up becoming a teacher, and that was the majority of my career. And I thought I was going to be a teacher for the rest of my life,
Hmm.
a public school teacher.
And a wonderful teacher you were. And I don't know that from being your student, but I do know that from the content that I've seen you create, the attention to detail and the attention to the what I call the ontological affect of what school was doing, not only to students, but also to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For those, I do not have the size audience that you have and whatnot. So most of the people that are going to be here live with us are going to be familiar with you, but they're not going to be familiar with me. And those of you in the audience that are reaching this episode just from following me, you're not going to be familiar with Kali that much. So I would love if you gave us a little bit of that 2020 era, that COVID, that right before pre-COVID era, BLM craziness that you decided to start kind of giving some voice to, why you started giving voice to it, and like just what you saw in the context of just schooling and teaching, before we mention teachers unions, just
Sure.
what you saw they were trying to do to the minds of you and your students.
I do think that a lot of people that are listening, even my own subscribers, if they're here, don't know my story because I have not been sharing it. And there's someone I really respect. She's I can't remember her name right now. I swear, since I've gone in my 40s, I can't remember anything. Riley Gaines, there it goes. She's really good at retelling her story. Like she retells her story. Like I've gone to some of her speeches, like when I've been at conferences, and she just tells her same story over and over and over and over again. And here I am. I haven't told my story in like 2 years. I'm sure there's people that don't even know I'm a teacher that are on this, so thank you for giving me this chance to share my story again. I was a public school teacher in California, and I loved what I did. I was born to be a teacher. And I remember when I was a little girl, and my brother and my sister was 8 years younger than me. I couldn't wait to teach her how to read. And so I taught my little sister how to read. I think I was like 13, 14, teaching her how to read. And I just knew that I always wanted to be around children. They bring out the best in me. And I just love the freedom of being a teacher in the classroom, because I also don't like having a boss over me all the time too. So there was that. Even though you have your principal, they're busy. And if you do your job well, they leave you alone. That's a good and bad thing, because if you're a liberal teacher trying to brainwash your students, the principal is not checking in on you. You could say whatever you want in that classroom, because the classroom really is a captive audience. And I knew that as well. And I wanted those students in my classroom to be the best they can be, to learn to love learning, because learning is incredible. And I also was someone who taught reading, and that was basically my specialty. I taught the low readers and the kids that were English learners, because I think that's the most important skill you could have in life, is to be able to master the language and to be able to communicate, and also to be able to read, to learn, because if you know how to read, you can learn anything, right? So here I am, loving my job, and I go to this conference. This was like maybe 3 years before I quit teaching. This was no, it was during Obama. It was like the last year of Obama, because I started teaching during the Obama era.
Okay.
And I was at a conference, and the first time I had a major red flag that our schools are getting way too left-leaning is I was at a conference with a room full of teachers, and there was this white teacher that stood up and was like, "I know that I have white privilege." And I was like, what? Like, and he's like, and I just want to make sure that I acknowledge my white privilege in the room. And I was like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Lord.
And that was like the first time, if I could recall a time where I was like, uh-oh, like this is getting, this race obsession is getting toxic, was when that happened. And then I had another teacher admit to me that they claim their white privilege to their students on the first day of school. That they tell their Black and brown students, because my district was majority Mexican kids, they tell their students that first day, I have white privilege and I acknowledge this. So imagine how they're treating their students with that lens, that they're privileged, that they have white privilege, and their students are not privileged. Their students have a disadvantage because of the color of their skin, whether that's true or not, because there is some times in life where you do have disadvantages because of the color of your skin. And I would argue that happens to white people too, right? But does that mean a teacher should approach her classroom in that way? No. So that was the first red flag. Second red flag that was really huge was during COVID, when, because I was doing my own thing. I always kind of stayed out of the drama on school campuses. And I was doing my own thing. I was having a great classroom. I never had problems with my students. The only time I ever had to send kids to the principal's office was when they came to my classroom high. Like you can't be drunk and high in my class. But other than that, I always had really, great time with my students. The other time, but when we had COVID and we had to shut down, which was already crazy because schools don't normally shut down in my district. They didn't even shut down the schools when the toilets weren't working. They brought in porta potties. This is when I was teaching middle school. They don't even shut down the schools when we had a gas leak. But all of a sudden they're shutting down for this virus that no one knows anything about, which we've had before. We had SARS that came, so they're shutting down our schools, and we're all having to load our lessons onto the same platform. All the teachers in my school, we all had to load our lessons. So we're able to see the lessons of other teachers. And my district adopted this class called ethnic studies that ninth graders all had to take. And my ninth graders were failing it. And the reason why I knew this is because I had my students check their grades every single week, because I'm the reading teacher and I'm the English language learner teacher. So my teaching skills is reflected in their other classes, because they need to know the English to be able to survive in their other classes. And here I am noticing that most of my students are failing this ethnic studies class that's required. And I asked my students, hey, why are you guys all failing this class? And and it was mainly boys that were failing it too. And they were like, Miss Fontanilla, that class is so stupid. Why do we have to take it? So I went and looked up the lessons, and it was like Marxist indoctrination from beginning to end, the whole class. I mean, it was ridiculous. They even learned about Marxism in ninth grade, like in a positive way. And they're learning about intersectionality and counting their oppression. The kids had to take a privilege quiz on day 5. One of the questions was, does your teacher look like you? And if your teacher doesn't look like you, that you go down on the privilege scale. Like, just why does the color of the skin have anything to do with how a teacher is effective for a student or not? Because it shouldn't. Some of my best teachers were white, and I know some white kids had some great Black teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't look like any of my students. All my students were Mexican.
And if your teacher doesn't have to be in the classroom because, online learning and such, then their aesthetic doesn't matter either.
Oh, right? Good point. Nice point there. Yes.
Your aesthetic, if your aesthetic mattered so much, then online schooling wouldn't have been an option.
Exactly.
It's let alone mandatory, right? Don't go to school. We'll lock you up, let alone that way. But I don't mean to interrupt the story.
No, it's fine. That's a really good point, because it really shouldn't matter. A good teacher is a good teacher regardless of the color of their skin. A bad teacher is a bad teacher regardless of the color of their skin. You know what I'm saying? So that was the third thing that happened, was seeing these lessons that were Marxist from beginning to end. And the students were being taught about critical race theory, which is basically a lens it's a color lens that you put on. So you view everything from the lens of race. And that's what they were teaching students to do. So if you are a Black student, then everything that happens to you that's negative is because of the color of your skin, not necessarily who you are or how you behave. And that's why in California, they started banning kids from being suspended for bad behavior, because there was a higher rate of Black and brown kids that were being suspended. Right. And they were blaming systemic racism instead of maybe, hey, there's a higher rate of fatherlessness in Black and brown kids' homes. There's also a higher rate of suspensions among boys amongst girls. So it can't just be race. You know what I'm saying? Because more boys get suspended than girls, right? And 100%. And it's 100%. Not good for the kids. It's not good for the kids. So there was that. And then there was also pro Black Lives Matter lessons, and Black Lives Matter is that movement was a very toxic and satanic movement from the beginning. And they were telling kids that if you did not support Black Lives Matter, you would not support the civil rights movement. That was in the lesson that they were wanting me to teach the kids. And I'm like,
Right.
Black Lives Matter is completely different than the civil rights movement. So there
And,
was just so
can
much going on. And I
right,
decided to
right.
whistleblow online anonymously on Facebook. That was the first thing I did.
How did what did you do to whistleblow online anonymously?
I just started talking about, I had a private Facebook account. I had no interest in social media. In fact, I had no social media while everybody else was like, when social media was in its heyday, right? When
Yeah.
everybody was getting on, I had none because I was like, this is a time suck. Like, I'm over this and I don't really care about people's lives that much, right? And that's kind of what it was everybody was updating on each other's lives. And I was just like, okay, like I'm just not interested in this. But the only reason why I opened up one again was because of COVID.
Right.
And I had a lot of left-leaning friends that were really into COVID. And so they were all isolating. And I'm like, this is how I'm going to connect with you guys, is through social media. And so I literally, one of my first posts back was like, I'm only on here because everybody is social distancing and I miss people. Right? That's why
it was a very depressing time.
Yes.
It was a very interestingly.
And I was in California. Most of my, like I said, most of my friends and family, very left-leaning. And so I went on to social media, and then
the fucking air in California is left.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Correct. But I will say, during COVID, you were able to find your people very easily in California because everybody else was all isolated and in masks. So I found some cool people. Like, I go for walks and everybody else is in masks. There was this one lady that wasn't in a mask. I was like, hey, what's up? And we became friends. Like, we were like,
identified.
Exactly.
Non-conformity is definitely something we can get into for sure, because it ties directly into some of the things I want to hear your perspective on today. And just before we move on, I want to respond to some of the things you said. And absolutely 1,000% white privilege versus Black victimhood or brown victimhood is basically it's baked into the bureaucratic apparatuses of our modern societies. And it doesn't matter the country. Okay. It's in China. It's in India, right? With the whole thing they got going on over there. And of course it's here in the United States. And it's, like we have terms around the world like non-white, right? Which is like, okay, does that mean like
BIPOC,
Southern Spaniard or like Southern Italian where they're a little browner? Like what is non-white? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why is it worded like that? Why is the diction, why is the etymology put together in this specific way? And what is that doing to the mind? And of course, I don't know if you've seen me, me back. I know you haven't read my book yet, but or I'm pretty sure you haven't. But my work surrounds what are these things doing to the mind? What stories are going to build in the vast majority of the population that endures these hidden lessons in school? For instance, one of the hidden lessons that I talked about 2 episodes ago is confusion, right? It's deliberate confusion. And that is it's directly linked to another hidden lesson, which is, I think, like the 5th or 6th one, which is where you're indifferent to the information. Now this is more so in like teaching strategy and curriculum standards and things level, but basically because, you go to reading and you learn something about comprehension, you test your ability to read something, put it down, and then remember the story or whatever, remember the moral. And then you go to history and it's completely not separated, but just disconnected lessons. And we completely have the option and have the ability and capability, especially in today's world with, AI and things that can compute faster than the super fast computing of regular internet, regular computing that's not AI. We can make it so that K through 12, maybe 3rd through 12, the lessons are all connected with each other. That is something that not only we can do, but one would argue would be the more logical structure for curriculum standards is to have everything connect. And I mean everything. Connect math to music, connect everything,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And the intentional disconnection alongside the automated directives like the school bell, which 200 days a year, 6, 7 times a day, 8 times a day if you got basketball practice, that school bell gives you a directive and you auto follow it,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Not only you, but the teacher auto follows it.
Yep.
Even if they
Yep.
say the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you, it don't matter because you will be in trouble if we all stay in here too long because
Mhm.
the next teacher got a lesson to teach and you're getting in their way, right?
Mhm.
So there's these things that work together that on purpose make the students normalize confusion within themselves, right? Confusion as to their place in the world, confusion as to what this information is important for, confusion as to what their social interactions should feel and look like, as well as indifference to each other and to the information that they're supposed to be learning, supposed to be excited about, supposed to be enriching them. We call them enrichment programs and all of this shit. And it's
Mhm.
just a complete, well, it's not a complete lie because some of it has to come from good intentions in an imperfect structure, but a lot of it is just a complete lie.
Yep.
And COVID too, like you said, it's a very interesting time, right? Where we witnessed the fruits of the labor of the social engineers, okay? The dark occult priest class of the secret societies that run this thing. Oh, I got a couple homies in here too. I was talking about myself like I wasn't gonna have nobody in here. We got Sarah and Big Sis in the chat. Shout out to y'all.
Nice.
Sorry, I just got really excited. This is Sarah. We used to have that. Yep. Phonetics. Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. I didn't mean to cut it off. Comprehension development. It's been phased out. And
Absolutely.
then Big Sis.
Cursive. Kids aren't even learning handwriting. We used to have students used to have a writing class. They used to learn how to write. They don't even have writing anymore. They put it all together as English, and you don't have like a specific writing class, which is so important.
Indeed. I'm definitely going to teach my daughter how to write in cursive.
Mm-hmm.
F that. Um, and all of this is very much in line with exactly what the system was designed to do. One of the biggest points that you might be familiar with, John Taylor Gatto. He wrote a groundbreaking book. He was a 30-year teacher in New York State and NYC, I believe, and he got Teacher of the Year 2 years in a row from his city, and then on the third year from the whole state. Teacher of the highest award you can get as a
Mm-hmm.
teacher of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And on that day, when he received that award, he indicted the school system and told everybody about what they're doing and these hidden lessons that I'm talking about, right?
Mm.
Pretty much a legend. Solid. I mean, he admitted, I did this, right? I was a part of the machine, but I done woke up and it's over now. Now
Mm-hmm.
I end my participation in the bullshit.
Mm.
But it is not failing at educating our kids. It's succeeding at dumbing down the nation and the
Yes.
world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I spent my last few episodes, speaking on these ills of the school system and how they shaped the laws around the public education departments of each state before we had, I think, a Department of Education.
Mm.
I don't think we had that yet. I'm pretty sure I'm correct. When Rockefeller, Carnegie, Big Steel, Big Oil, Big Pharma, and every big bank was putting their hands in the cookie jar of educating the future of the nation, they all said, okay, we need to create a small population of managers and keep secret the agenda that we have for the managed.
Yes.
Right. And one of the biggest questions that I have for you, because I really admire your work and I always have, and I think you're super cool. We're going to talk a little bit later about how I I switched some of my philosophy. I think I upgraded, but I don't want to put it in a way that puts other people down on accident. And I'm no longer conservative, but I'm not on the left either. We'll get there. I really like what you do, and you released this documentary a couple years back, explaining how teachers unions fit into this design of dumbing us down on purpose. And I would love to kind of give the floor to you to really flesh that out in your own words for the audience.
Teachers unions, they used to be the most trusted union in the nation because, they were like doctors, you trust your doctor, you trust teachers. And teachers unions they are the largest union as well in the nation. So two teachers unions, NEA and the AFT, they have the most members. And they started with, good intentions because teachers were overworked. They weren't getting the pay that they should get. And they decided to unionize and make it so that teachers have better working conditions, which is the reason why most unions are started, because of working conditions. But now they have just turned into I would call them a left-leaning interest group now. A lot of the union dues that are being given to the teachers unions are being used for left-leaning politicians and left-leaning legislation that's in education. So for example, right now, the largest teachers union in Florida, the Florida Education Association, is fighting to take away school choice in Florida. And Florida is a state that has universal school choice. So it doesn't matter if you make a ton of money, right? In Florida, you can get $8,000 per child per year to put your kid into whatever school you want of your choice.
Yes.
So if you want your kid to go to a Christian school, if you want your kid to go to an art school, if you want your kid to go to a charter school, if you want your kid to go to a private classical academy, you will get $8,000 a year from the state to put your child in whatever school they want. You don't have to have them in a public school. The teachers unions hate that. They hate school choice, which is the number one powerful tool, I think, for especially Black and brown kids, if you want to get your kids out of a failing school system and make sure that they're going to get, on a good path in life, is to pull them from some crappy school where there's bad kids, especially in middle school and high school, and you put them in some private school where they're protected from these bad kids, right? And there isn't just this whole environment that's bringing them down. That's one of the best things you could do for your child, is to take them out of a bad school. Yeah. I mean, I know a child can be completely different just depending on what classroom they're in. Imagine if they're in a whole different school, right? So the Florida Teachers Union is currently fighting right now to take away school choice from over 500,000 parents and students in Florida right now. So they're really wanting to fight because they know that if students are required to go to their school, if there's no other choice but to put your child into a public school because you can't afford $8,000 a year for a private school, and now they're up to like $11,000, $12,000 a year, then they have a captive audience and they can have a crappy product, which is what our public schools are. They are a crappy product. Right now in Florida, only 50% of students read at grade level, read proficiently. So the teachers unions are very much behind the fight to keep our educational system lame and our students dumbed down, because their interest is for the left, for Democrats, and their interest is for the teachers, not the students. And there's just always going to be this power struggle within our educational system because of that. And the documentary is really good. You can find it on YouTube. If you look up Teachers Union, and it's on the PragerU page, and it goes into the history of teachers unions. I highly recommend everyone watching it. I haven't shared it on my platform in a very long time, so I will share it again. But
definitely. Definitely. It's worth the watch. This channel is not a fan anymore of PragerU, but we definitely, because of their leadership, not because of their videos.
Boy, everyone. Okay, we can rant about this because everyone on the right is lame nowadays.
Everybody's lame.
Yes.
Everybody's lame.
It's kind of breaking my heart.
Absolutely everybody.
My heart is broken like all the influencers, all the but we can go on. That's a whole other topic. Maybe
It's
we'll
a
have
whole other
another.
topic.
We got to have
Yeah.
a whole other because I know a lot about all that too. So, uh-huh.
Yeah.
People have
Nah,
sold
yeah,
out. They
man.
sold out. They're not. They're just. Anyways, that's sad.
Um, yeah, kind of. There's a good transition, as a matter of fact. I mean, I don't want to just leave the teachers union subject unresponded to.
Well,
So,
one thing I will say is
mhm.
that public trust has gone down for teachers unions, and that's a big deal. The fact
Good
that
big
people
deal.
don't, yeah, it's a good big deal. And the teachers unions know this. Their power is not what it used to be. People are waking up. They no longer have required dues anymore. When I was a teacher and I first started, my paycheck was deducted for teachers union fees without me even signing up. I never became a member of the teachers union, even though I was left leaning at the time. I just didn't want to have all that money deducted from my check, but there was still some money that still had to come out to these teachers, to the main teachers unions, and now they don't have that anymore. So they are losing a lot of power, and people are waking up to that, and I think it's because of all of the information that's come out about them.
Well, yeah, and just public trust is down for the system itself. Public
Yes.
trust is down because people, I would say, we got hit with too many big public experiments at once for the population to remain completely docile.
Yes.
I do not hold the position that something big is changing and we're getting so many more people are waking up and all of that. I enjoy that train of thought. I enjoy people that do believe that, but I just don't see it myself because I don't see the root targeted by people who say by people who are, let's say, claimed to be someone who woke up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, I can count on one hand, two hands, people that I personally consider awake, and that has a lot to do with whether or not they're actually targeting the root, what I personally consider in my personal head at the root of the problem, and the root of the problem always comes for me always comes down to morality. Always comes down to objective morality versus moral relativism. Moral relativism, for the audience, is where it is what we have today in our law system, where in Philadelphia, I can have a gun with a certain clip, and then if I go across, 20 minutes to the east into New Jersey, as soon as my car enters New Jersey or I, step over that border, I can be arrested just because I own that object or those objects in my possession, and I have them in my possession. And that is basically sending the message that this is moral and okay over here, but it's immoral and not okay over here.
Mm-hmm.
There's something extremely religious about government. There's a belief system that builds itself around authority figures and authority buildings and just the feel of authority that sets the rules, right, and enforces the rules. Be grateful to be in America instead of Great Britain. You have no idea how lucky we have full-blown communism, dictatorship in parliament. Yeah, man. Shout out to Canada, shout out to Britain, shout out to China, all of the overt totalitarian regime, North Korea, shout out to all the good people in those regions of the world. I was a talking head for conservatism for a second, a nice long second, actually. And my last podcast, I went on the podcast from the left to the right. As a matter of fact, something I don't think I said to you yet, Kali, is I think it was my second episode of my first podcast that you came on twice. In my second episode, I said it was disgusting to call abortion murder. Can you believe that shit? I said that was a disgusting description because it's just not a, whatever the talking point from the left that was programmed into my mind before I really knew anything. Definitely way before I was a dad or even considering being a.
Yeah.
But just I had the talking points and I had the practiced kind of conviction of I know what I'm talking about, you know. What I'm saying? And then I think 3 episodes before you came on for the first time, I did a whole 1 hour special solo episode where, because I was mostly doing interviews back then. Because I thought that would bring me views. It didn't. Whole hour on why I was wrong about that, right? What's really going on and what mind control I was under and breaking out of. Just as an example of going to the right. I also had certain views about. Now, I think conservatives very largely, the Charlie Kirks, the may rest in peace, the a bunch of influencers from, let's say, 2015 to 2022-ish era. I think they're completely wrong about the police, and I think they're cognitively dissonant in the same way that a right-wing Zionist today is cognitively dissonant about the lives of the children lost overseas in that little place in the Middle East. The videos, the constant videos that show a complete difference. And I don't mean white people don't get abused by police every day. Of course they do. But just the complete difference in how police interact with us versus how they interact with others, with whites and non-whites in this country and whatnot. But I did think that conservatives had a much better approach to let's say public policy, to statute creation when it came to the police, and just a much better logical approach to social issues in general. So I hopped on the conservative train for a minute, and then maybe 2023 and a half, maybe a little bit more, 2020, early 2023, 2022 and a half to early 2023, I rediscovered where I was at the end-ish of my at the end-ish of my lefty days, which is in anarchism. And so now I would call myself an abolitionist, a voluntarist, and anarchist, where voluntarism basically just our interactions, the projects that we engage in, the things that we possess, all of these things should be through consent, through being informed and regular, like just not needing permission from the government, permits from the government, or surveillance and oversight of a central power. I don't mean no oversight whatsoever, and I definitely don't mean no rules whatsoever. Just that we shouldn't live our lives under the threat of constant violence, Pardon me. And I believe that government itself, past government, future government, tribal government, like a pack of elders, any system over a large group of people or a small group of people that has decided it has a divine right to rule and that the people have a divine obligation to obey, and relies on the threat of violence to move its agenda forward. Oh, I see Candace Owens in the chat. I'm going to address that in a minute. Is a form of slavery, because if chattel slavery, in my eyes, the whips and chains slavery, is 100% control over your actions and what you're allowed to do and have and whatnot, then the question that comes up for me is, well, what percentage would not be slavery if it's the threat of violence that is driving the program? If it's the threat of violence that's driving the program, then I would argue 0% is the only percent of control that they can have before it's slavery. And then once you get 1% control under the threat of violence, that's slavery. Now,
And threat of violence, what do you mean by threat of violence? Like the
violence.
specific institutions that enforce
Yeah,
law?
we'll put you in a cage. We'll separate you from your family. We'll hurt you. We'll kill you.
So do you believe in no prisons now?
I believe that if there is such a thing as prison, it's designed and geared towards real rehabilitation. It's not controlled and regulated by a central power, but more so by a regional group of people who are in real community, who grow their food together, who tend to the land together, and who tend.
That sounds more like communism
together.
and anarchy.
No. Communism also involves a central power. It's all central power dynamics is slavery to me. It is slavery, I would say, objectively. I would argue.
Would you have that in your family?
Would I have what in my family?
That type of system that you're talking about, where you don't have power over your children. You don't get to choose how to raise them.
Children. It's just not through the threat of violence. It's not through coercive and religious means of like the approach and the function and the structure is not dogmatic or, like because I said so type of thing. Or if you don't, then you're going to get hurt or killed or caged. Okay. A human being is not something that is, well, I would say this at the end of the day.
So even if your child is hurt, like molesting another child or hurting another child, you don't think that there should be any sort of like strict punishment on that. It should be just.
Oh, no. If you're not innocent and you're caught, especially if you're caught in the moment, but if you're caught, even after the moment, there's an investigation, we find the video and you did it, right? Then, I can do this too. That kind of gets closer to the screen. Then you're not innocent. So when I say, when I'm talking about the threat of violence, I do mean against people who have not violated the rights, freedoms. That's why voluntarism is one of the key terms, because again, consent, being fully informed, meaning things were disclosed about what your intentions were, things like that should be a part of our interactions, not just this, what it is contract law, not just this contract law where because you have a birth certificate, because we consider you some sort of subject to our jurisdiction, you now are subject to being, again, killed, thrown in a cage, have your stuff taken, or have your stuff damaged, or have you damaged because of some debt, or because you were driving too fast, or because you were driving too slow. My little brother got pulled over and extorted because he was driving too slow, which is hilarious. But it's not hilarious in the system way, but it's hilarious because he's my little brother. And I'm like, you got pulled over for driving too slow? What is wrong with you? Anyway, but the position that I hold is that the presumption of innocence is a real thing. And that if we're really going by the presumption of innocence, then there is no, again, percent that the government can have of control over my actions and your actions without it being slavery. And I'm not okay with slavery.
I hear what you're saying. And I somewhat agree with you, because this is what I used to tell my students. Because when you're a teacher and you have to manage a classroom of 30 kids, you have to, there's management styles, right? Yes. And I would always tell my students at the beginning of the school year, I kind of need to be a dictator because I don't know you guys yet. And I don't know if you can be self-governing. And I strongly believe in self-government. And if you have a self-governing people, and that was what our founding fathers were all about too. If you have a self-governing people, you don't need to have a government to come in and govern over them. Our government was basically, the way we were founded, we weren't meant to have all of these federal powers. We weren't even supposed to have a federal educational system. Right. When people were freaking out about the Department of Education being dismantled, I was like, you guys, that wasn't even supposed to happen. We weren't even supposed to have a federal Department of Education. States were supposed to run their own schools, right? And even then, the states weren't even supposed to be super crazy about running the schools. It was supposed to be the provinces were running their own schools. Yeah. And So you can't really have like the type of society that you want unless you have people that are self-governing.
Well, yeah, and there's a bigger problem, which is that we're too far.
Gone.
Oh, thanks for reminding me about Candace Owens. We're too far gone from what is actually natural and what is actually got aligned with divine principles. I'm going to shy away from certain religious terms, but aligned with religious principles, not religious, pardon me, divine principles. And that gap isn't addressed when I say, this is my philosophy. This is what I believe is true. This is what I am working to one day, put my drop in the bucket to help humanity manifest. But I also acknowledge the full manifestation of it is so far in the future, there's no way I'd be alive to see it come to fruition. That doesn't mean I don't work towards it, but it does hold true that violence against the innocent, extortion on the innocent, extortion in general, and theft is always wrong, right? Just simply like murdering children in the womb or out of the womb is always wrong. That just holds true. And so in the let's say like blanketed absolute statements that I use, government is slavery, even 1% of coercive control is slavery. In these absolute statements that I use, I do recognize that to get to what's actually natural and real, or to align our behavior with what's real in the universe, beyond just little humans on little Earth, whether you believe the Earth is flat or not, there's an objective set of reasons that if we as a human family have a shared objective of more freedom and less coercion in general, right? No matter what kind of political terms we put to it, religious terms we put to it, whatever the rhetoric is, if we have a shared objective of generally more freedom, generally less coercion, generally more health, generally less sickness and illness, generally more cooperation, generally less corruption, then to achieve those shared objectives, or that really one shared objective, which is a better place than how we got here, leaving it a better place, has prerequisites. And if the prerequisite includes learning, knowing, and then teaching and embodying objective morality over moral relativity, then one day we have to get there in order to achieve the shared objective. And that's just where I'm at with it. Right. Candace Owens keeps showing up in the chat. And we disagree on her. Okay. And I know me and Josh disagree big time on her, and that's fine. That's okay. I also remember you telling me about the whole Brexit stuff from the past. Right. It's years later now. So, that's in the past. But Candace is a very unique individual. Right. She's number one in podcasts. She's being tweeted about by the president 4 and 5 times in a single week. Never happened before. She's basically the most powerful person in independent media right now. I would say in media right now, at least politically speaking. Right. She's obviously doesn't have the most followers in the world, but that's because sports and celebrities have the most followers. But the most influence on the politically inclined, I'd say she holds that title pretty unequivocally.
What a lame place to be.
And what makes
I would never want to have that place. That's not that's a tough spot.
Fun. Doesn't sound fun. She deals with constant threat. But what makes her story interesting and intriguing, and even for me inspiring, is the fact that she is not afraid to say no. And
to certain people. But I don't think she'll say no to the Catholic Church.
Well, I think she's missing basically a few key facts, if you will. It's hard to say facts because it's like, more like contexts, if you will. A few key things. And and maybe she will. And here's and with the Catholic Church, with religion in general, with faith traditions in general, if your personal behavior, if your individual behavior is not aligned with the dark occult, at least to a large extent, if you're showing that you are not attempting to play on their team and you're using an imperfect system to try and align with truth, and it shows not only in one or two instances, but it shows consistently over years where many other people would have folded here, and here, and basically become compliant. Then I kind of grant you the freedom to like your personal, to have your personal journey with God, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And to have your own religious inclinations where I have mine, because I don't think that if the facts were introduced to her in a way that she understood them, that I believe she's missing, that she would stay out of a stubbornness. I think she does have the capacity to say no. I just think that the way her story has played out and the way that her trauma has played out has given her some really, really deep, big conviction around Catholicism and Jesus Christ that a lot of other people who claim to follow the same don't have. And it's just a bit of a funny kind of situation where I don't subscribe to any religion whatsoever. You could say my religion.
Do you think you're a god?
No, I'm not a new ager.
Oh, okay. I just want to ask.
No,
I'm trying to figure out where you're coming from.
It's and it's hard even talking about real like factual. What are we? What is life? What is a human? What is a mind? Because words get sticky, right? A single word will have 50 definitions if you talk to 50 different people, depending on the word, right? I'm not talking about the word dog, but certain words and short phrases and buzzwords and things have completely different definitions depending on who you're talking to. And when you get deep into, what is life? Well, what is God? What is objective? What is subjective? Then you get further and further. If you keep trying to word reality into words and not just live the truth, you may end up away from where you wanted to go, if that makes sense. At a certain point, if we do have common ground and we have a shared objective, but we have different means of going about it, then let's just go about it differently and meet at the finish line and shake hands. You know what I'm saying?
I don't agree with that, but
that's
a long conversation.
Okay, well, why not? Why not? I like your mind. Why not?
I just don't see that working. It's never worked in the past, where people come with all these different philosophies and somehow come to this coercive union in the end where we're all shaking hands. I mean, give me examples of when that has ever worked in the past.
I don't think that's what I meant. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I think that kind of broadens what I meant into something that's more like gooey than what I intended. And I don't think, because I'm not saying it doesn't matter what your faith is. You can have any faith and arrive at the same heaven or we can get to the same place. If a Catholic and a Satanist and a natural law person and somebody who's a new ager all have the same goal, then they're all going to just go about it differently. Of course not. I think there is a lot of spiritual nonsense out there, and that's by design, in my opinion. So I coat my last claim with when we're talking about people who have at least a modicum of common sense, right? And so people who are not inclined to introduce methods of like stepping on somebody to get where you want to go and just immoral behavior into their faith system. Those people aside for what I just said. And if we have this, like I said, we have the same goals and you call God Allah and you don't bomb anybody. You don't have any. That was racist as fuck. But you don't, you don't have any inclinations toward violence or, like I said, theft, the transgressions of the world. Then I don't care if you use the word Allah. I don't. It has no bearing on whether or not I'm going to give it my best to try and manifest the result that we both want.
And I think that can work with certain things, like, for example, abortion or private schools. Like, a lot of Muslims want private schools and they want to be able to raise their kids, or religious freedom, like those kind of principles. But I think in the grand, like, if we're going to go beyond the world we're in right now and think universe and think, what's beyond this, I don't think that works. But I think that, like, in just our everyday lives where we have to figure out how to run this country, there is a lot of unity we can have with other faiths on certain, like, principles that we're trying to fight for. And I think that's something that we should do. But I see what you're saying. I totally see what you're saying.
Ditto. What I would offer to that is we can and should stay grounded in what are the everyday changes that need to be in place before we even can really have a legit conversation about the beyond in the universe.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And with that, I believe, like I said, abolitionism, voluntarism, anarchism is the only practical answer, because it's an ism as far as the word itself is spelled, but it's not really an ism. Anarchy is the natural state of being, right? We're not asking permission from the government to have this conversation. And we're privileged a little bit because we live here and we're not going to be pursued immediately by the police force of this nation. But even if you live in the UK, you wake up, you're not going to ask the government to breathe. You're not going to ask the government necessarily to brush your teeth, to go to work, to put on your shoes, to put on your pants one leg at a time. Anarchy is literally what the state of humanity is at all times. And our obedience to statutory and just man's law in general is what gives the appearance of reality to the structures that are in place. Mm-hmm. And if we can see that appearance as appearance only, right? There's a lot of comments I should have been putting on the stage too, but I'm just enjoying this conversation so much. I hope y'all still love me. Sorry for not putting.
No, it's good. You know what? I always loved a free thinker. And I think that's very important. Like, we need to be able to hash out ideas like this. And I think that where you're going to miss people is just the negative connotation of the word anarchy. Because all it is exodus. It's also the same as exodus. It's also free will. And free will is like an incredible thing. Free will
it's the
is like,
state.
To be able to make the decision. Like, I could stay up all night tonight and eat a bunch of, what do I love? Magnum bars. You know what I'm saying? And I could just destroy my life within a week. I could destroy my life in the week. I could go buy some crack down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like free will is a huge thing. And that's just another word for what you're saying with the term anarchy, where it's basically you do not have anyone governing over you. But it's just a matter of how do we pull that off, and how do we as a society get to a place where we don't have so much, so many systems over us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, when we can recognize that in truth, we don't, right? All we have is our obedience. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as slavery without obedience. There's no such thing as coercion without obedience. There might be collusion, but then it'll stop at a certain point because there's no obedience. And so our participation, Kanye West once got in trouble for saying slavery is a choice. I think he meant it, or I hope he meant it, in the broader sense of without mass obedience, there is no such thing as slavery. If you can choose death instead of slavery, right? Whether it's what the Japanese call, I think Hakari. I might get that wrong. Suicide. Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they do that.
YouTube's gonna do things. Self-offing, or you can choose to beat them, shoo them away by defending yourself, righteous self-defense, or righteous defense of the innocent. I think both things are not given bad karma by the universe, whereas murder and assault are. Meaning, if you go out and harm somebody that you're not defending anything, you have no right to be harming them, then you're going to get karma for that. The universe is going to respond. Karma is very, very well documented science that we just can't see, just like we can't see oxygen, just like we can't see magnetism. We can see the effects of it. We can see the effects of karma, and if you read about it, you'll get your answers. But as my friend likes to say, Google is free. But in that, I don't think the universe is going to respond negatively to you defending yourself when you are innocent, or defending the innocent when you see something really going on. But it is going to respond if you are consistently, if human family, if collectively the aggregate of the human family is consistently saying, yes, I'm on the team of the Satanists. I'm on the team of the dark occult manipulators of humanity, because I am doing my best every single day to stay so adherent to their rules and laws that they don't notice me. Then the universe is going to give us our karma and say, well, here you go for being on their team. Right? I think that the order follower is much more culpable for bad karma than the order giver. The order giver basically shared a thought. The order follower took the action. Mm-hmm. And again, if you study how this place was built and how it responds to behavior, the person that takes the action gets the bigger slice of the karma than the person that came up with the idea.
What do you mean if you study? Like what?
If you study natural law, and that's a loaded term, because again, words and phrases like that have 50 definitions. But if you reflect on, read about the psychology and spirituality, or spiritual nature, of humanity, of a human being, whether you're looking into like Carl Jung and his whole shadow work stuff, whether you're looking at just case studies of people trying to study karma, like they study math or something. If you look at people that philosophize on law and government, and look at the trends of how society gets better and better or worse and worse, depending on the laws and things that people adhere to and the behaviors that they're willing to do to say, I'm proud of my country or whatever, or I'm proud of my tribe. All of these things show a consistent pattern of the more objectively moral, which just basically means not harming people, not harming the innocent, because you can harm somebody in defense. There's such a thing as righteous defense of the innocent, righteous defense of yourself if you're innocent. But objectively moral behavior has the effect of more freedom in that society. This is what you find. It's called the universal law of freedom. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. Meaning there's a small group of people who will manage the rest of the people with tighter and tighter and tighter iron fist and tighter gloves. The more that given society treats each other badly. The more that happens, the more you can even see in the kind of surface level arguments against anarchy. Well, people are naturally greedy. Well, people are naturally this and that, sort of inclined to do harm to each other. No. At least I don't believe so, and I don't see evidence for that, especially as a father now. I say human beings are naturally programmable. And if we're largely programmed, especially in the school system, to be obedient, and then the people that we're obedient to deserve bad karma, well, what are we signing up for? Even if we don't see it. Now, I'm not saying we see it, but because we don't. You know, they get us very young. They start to trauma train. Your channel's not on here anymore.
Yeah, I turned it off because I was not thinking we were going to go all up into this, and I
Oh,
haven't
me
done I
either.
haven't done a live on my YouTube in a long time, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I just don't know where you're going.
Okay.
And I feel like if I'm going to talk on my channel, I'm going to share my beliefs, not yours. You know what I'm saying?
For
And
sure.
you're just going off on what you believe, and I don't know where you're headed. Like,
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I was losing.
I'm not headed anywhere evil, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not headed anywhere stupid.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for certain.
I just, we haven't had this conversation. We should. I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to.
No, yeah.
My thing is like I want to be able to share, like, I want to be able to share it on my terms, not yours. You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
If we're gonna go into all that,
right.
Because you're kind of, yes, it is very personal.
It's very personal.
I just kind of see where you're going, and the whole karma thing and all that. Like, it's just something I do not agree with at all, and I don't want to have a big argument with you on this today. That's not. Yeah.
You wouldn't have to. And karma is just a word. I'm just trying to point to something that we can see in life. You do receive, you do reap what you sow in life. Just like you plant a tree, you get a tree. Mm-hmm. There are responses that you get that are, again, heavily reported on, not even heavily, long documented history on the reporting and the scientific method applied to the moral weight of one's choices does get a response from life. I'll call it. You can call it God. You call it, there's a response that we get from the unseen to the moral weight of our choices.
Do you believe in God and Satan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe absolutely that there is a creator. Mm-hmm. I believe absolutely that there is that there are multiple forces that we should pay attention to and be 100% against falling into the temptation of embodying. We should not embody certain energies that are absolutely there. And I believe that entities are and can be influencing human behavior from the unseen that are malicious. So yeah, absolutely. Do I believe that the Bible is infallible? No, I don't believe that. I can just look at Romans 13, 1-7. And I see the word of man all up and through Romans 13, 1-7, and certain other stories that I've already addressed on this channel. But that, that's my personal take on whether or not this entire book is infallible or whatever.
But well, human beings are infallible, but like prophecy in the Bible, you don't think there's prophecy in the Bible?
I do think that there's prophecy. I just don't think the Bible is infallible is a true statement. Oh, my camera auto zoom in. If I go back too far, it'll auto zoom in. I wonder, is it gonna let me put the cameras back like this for a second? It's not going back. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. It did, you see, I didn't touch anything. I don't know. Maybe I'll just lean back now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there's deep truth in the Bible. I think that there's unquestionable deep truth in that text. I just don't see, like, and I love Christ, mm-hmm. right? I don't have to be I don't have to exist in the form of a modern Christian to love Christ, to love the example, the word, and the sacrifice.
Well, a lot of modern Christians don't love Christ. Oh, in their actions,
right? Right. Look at some of the people that say, I'm a Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been so beat up by the church. You have no idea, like, beat up by the church. That's a whole nother story. Like, okay. I never really, I have had a lot of supernatural experiences. Mm-hmm. And, like, I the biblical prophecy, like the book of Revelations, the book of Daniel,
Mhm.
those books are telling us what's going to happen. And I believe that those are true, and that there isn't a single prophecy in the Bible that hasn't been fulfilled or isn't about to be fulfilled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you know,
And it's easy to prove.
that.
So if you want to debate that, we could go all day on that. But
Well, I
like,
don't disagree. You know what I'm saying? I don't have super strong opinions against what somebody else should use to orient themselves toward a good afterlife spot,
mhm.
right? If you use the Bible to align yourself with, I'm just going to say, basic goodness, right, for conversational purposes.
Mhm.
If you use that system and that book, and you actually do move through life in a way that you're not harming the innocent, and that you are working towards, again, just the basic, more freedom, less coercion, then I don't have a problem with you using the book.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I may have a problem with you, let's say, telling my daughter, hey, this is true no matter what your parents say, or something. I have a problem with that, right? The
Mhm.
same way I would have a problem if the school did that with a textbook, or anything. I'd have a problem with that. But I don't have a problem with, like, here in my household, we're Christians and we believe the Bible, and we go by that text, and that's kind of how we live our lives. And as a result, we don't do this, and this. And it's like, okay, well, great. That's awesome.
Mhm.
We also don't do those things, and we don't only use biblical principles in our household.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But no, I don't diss the prophecy. I don't diss people for having faith systems and religions. Personally, I don't think it's stupid to have a faith system. I just think that the Bible is not infallible. And I just think that the principles therein, the true principles in the holy texts, are true, whether they came out of that book or another book, or somebody's mouth that day. Right? If it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true. That's where I stay. You know what I mean? I think that we have plenty of cognitive ability to determine what is true and what's not true.
Mm-hmm. I don't agree, but cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you disagree with that I said?
Well, I mean, I've studied all the world religions, and none of them have proof except the Bible.
Well, I don't just mean religion.
World
religious
texts. They don't have. There's just nothing to stand on. For example, like the Quran, Muhammad was visited by an angel, which was a demon, which was a devil. And, truth always has some similar stories as what's in the Bible, but it's perverted, which is what Satan does. He takes truth and perverts it just a little bit or a lot, and takes people on a wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, for me, like the fact that he said he was visited by an angel to write the Quran. And if you look into his history and who he was as a person and type of things he was doing, he wasn't being guided by a holy angel, but being guided by a demon to write the Quran. And if you look at the Quran and its teachings, like there is calls to violence and all of that sort of thing. So like, I just can't be like, oh, there's all these different philosophies and they all have some good things in them. Like I just can't agree with that.
Well, that's okay. That's not what I said, but okay. I don't agree with that either.
Yeah.
I think that there is spiritual nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there in a lot of it, and on purpose, by design.
By design, yes. And to bring people into a place where they no longer hear the truth. They're just spun out in this weird place. And I think there's different strokes for different folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I also believe that the Bible has been corrupted in some of its versions. So you have to be very careful about which version you are reading, especially in the last 150 years, because the world shifted in the 1800s. If you think about in the mid 1800s, a bunch of strong delusions were given to the people. And one of them was to take the Bible and translate it, or not even, or take out verses even. Like, for example, the NIV Bible has whole verses that are missing. And it's translated in ways where people can come up with some different truths than what God intended. So that's where I'm at on that. Like, I just think that
do you have a version? I don't mean to cut you off. Do you have a version that you think is more like authoritative?
Absolutely. Looking at the original Hebrew, especially for the Old Testament and for the New Testament, the best I think would be the King James version. But also, again, looking at the
KJV,
original,
okay.
looking at the original text. But King James, even the New King James, doesn't have, and it's the texts that were received as well. Like, if you look at if you look at the history of how we got the Bible and where the Bibles that we use now, there's certain texts that come from this place, and there's certain texts that come from the actual original Greek writings that happened of the New Testament.
Word.
Mm-hmm.
Word.
And I think that's a very important to study, because there are corrupted versions of the Bible.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But yeah, the reason I asked you about the versions, if you personally considered a version kind of authoritative, and I'm glad you said New Testament. The book of Romans is in the New Testament.
Yes, the book of Romans. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Paul's writings are complicated. They're very complicated.
Okay.
My husband wrote a whole book on Romans. I'll have him send it to you, because
I'll read it.
You said Romans 13, which is interesting.
Romans
13, that's very much contested amongst Christians,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Bible was ever meant to be something that's like you read it and that's that. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to mill over it. You're supposed to chew on it. You're supposed to question it. You're supposed to wrestle with God about it. We're all supposed to, like Jacob, we're supposed to wrestle with God. Mm-hmm. And then we're also supposed to tell him, do not let me go until you bless me. God is like so much more complex than how we could even. But I do believe like the creation story is real. I believe in the 7 days of creation. I think that that's the only way that even this world could be explained, because it is so infinitely complex. Like, even the tiny cell is more complex than New York City. Like, there's just no way of creating that unless it was this incredible supernatural being that designed it and did it. And I think that there's design in everything, even the way my hand is moving, where my brain can communicate with my hand in the way it's moving right now. Yeah. Like, that's so incredibly supernatural. And we try to put our finite man onto this supernatural, and we'll never be able to understand. But the best, most closest way we can understand God is through the personhood of Jesus Christ.
That's why I like his example.
Mm-hmm. Because that's like, if you want to know who I am, this is the best way you can know who I am, but you still don't know who I am because he's supernatural. You know what I'm saying? But here's as close as you can get, man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get what you, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Are you not Josh familiar with that particular chapter, beginning of that chapter? Like what Paul is saying? Because he's essentially saying anybody who's in government that punishes you is doing my work. He's doing God's work, pardon me, because Paul wrote it. So he's doing God's work.
Let me look at it right
For sure.
now. Uh-huh.
The KJV says, let every soul be subject unto the... Oh, I didn't add it to the stage. My bad. Hold on. I always do this on StreamYard. There we go. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers.
Oh, yeah. I know. So you're supposed to follow the law until, but once it violates God's law, you're not supposed to follow it. There's examples of that all throughout the Bible, and you're supposed to take here a little, there a little. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Paul wouldn't 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 obey orders if they went against God's orders.
Well,
So
okay.
So you are supposed to follow the law as long as they're following God's law. You know, you can't go against God's law. But if the governing authorities aren't compelling you to go against the Lord, then yes, you obey.
Okay, right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you just have a personal problem with that because you don't like that and you think that we should
Well,
be
there's
anarchists.
never been an example of a government or any group of people who claim the right and the wherewithal and the ability and the capacity to rule over another human being or another set of human beings that were actually good. There hasn't been one.
Well, no, I disagree with that. I do think that God puts in governments and inspires governments. I believe he inspired our Constitution, and that's what the founding fathers said. Like, our Constitution is God inspired. I don't think that, and I think what happens is we're in a fallen world. So we this isn't God's ideal. Like, we're not supposed to have slavery. We're not even supposed to eat meat, brother. You know, like in Eden, we were not eating meat. You know, we weren't even wearing clothes. We were naked. We were clothed in light, you know, mm-hmm. But that was God's original design. And then because of free will, we went outside of that design. And so now outside of that design, these are the rules. This is what needs to happen in order for us to have a somewhat functioning society. It's still not ideal. Of course, it never will be. Because if it was ideal, we wouldn't even need Christ to come and die for us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, this is what needs to happen in order to have somewhat of a functioning society. Like, we're not supposed to, we shouldn't have to have any of these rules that we have now, thousands and thousands and thousands of laws, if we all just followed the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Garden of Eden is definitely another very interesting and, like you said, highly, debated even amongst Christians, highly contentious as far as the feeling leaves you story, because the Garden of Eden features peculiar choices from the Creator in that book in Genesis, which looking at it myself, you have the creation story, 7 days, everything on earth is created. The day before or 2 days before, you have Adam and Eve. You get the animals, and that would include, quote unquote, the serpent. Now, whether or not the serpent that was created in those days is a much more ancient like soul that kind of possessed or just inhabited that particular serpent that was in the garden is beside the point I'm getting ready to make.
Mm-hmm.
But you get the creation of this serpent. God gives the serpent the level of mental capacity, social skills, and all of this. It's in the creation of everything. It's given to the serpent. Then a couple days later, or the next day, he creates Adam, and then creates Eve, and puts Adam and Eve, who, for them as well, makes Adam, breathes the breath of life, takes the rib, makes Eve, breathes the breath of life. Now you got two humans. He also gave the mental capacity, the social skills or lack thereof, right? The social, the ability to defend, the ability to see beyond the right now. All of those things that I can do very readily, and I can weigh the consequences of my choices very readily without any effort, so to speak, because I've lived, I'll be 35 this year or whatever, a little bit of life. I just have enough experience to see if somebody's trying to trick me, manipulate me, lie to me, make me go, in a bad way or whatever. And God creates Adam and Eve and plops them in arm's reach, metaphorically speaking, of this serpent that immediately in the story has the power to manipulate. And by power, I just mean has the wherewithal, the mental wherewithal, the mental toughness to tempt to persuade and seduce people. And then you have people who are so naive and innocent and created this way on purpose by the same God, put right next to the serpent. Then the serpent comes and does his temptation. Eve is tempted. Adam is persuaded. They go in direct contradiction to one of the instructions, to, I guess, the only instruction that God gave his own creation. And when they go against said instruction, he punishes everything that he just called good, right? He called the creation good. He called the animals good. He called Adam good. He called the earth good, and everything. The earth got punished. The snake got punished, obviously. And Adam and we, the fall of man, were eternally punished.
Did you know the snake went to different worlds?
Sure. And the whole design.
And tried to tempt them, but they said no.
Okay. The whole design was make you, put you right here. I'm gonna make you, put you right here. And I'm all knowing, and I'm all powerful. And I set the rules for this place.
Except there's one rule. Except he didn't create. Except he gave us free will.
He gave us free will.
Yes, and Satan, and the angel,
give Adam
and Eve. He created a being that has almost that is a very that is. He can't give all of his power to another being, obviously, but he created a being that has as much. I mean, just is very supernaturally powerful as well in the angels. So these angels can shapeshift. They can, because I've had supernatural beings appear to me. They can shapeshift. They can take on different forms. They can control the weather. They can give, because if you look in the Bible, the devil has the power to make you sick. The devil has the power to take away family members. So you have to look at, if you look at it just from this world, I can see why you come to the place where you disagree with God on what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to understand it from your mind of why did he allow this to happen in the first place?
I don't disagree. I'm not going to cut you off though, but
yeah. But if you look at it through the universe and through the fact that we are a tiny, 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 tiny speck compared to what's in the universe, it's just, and that also, if you look at it through eternity, which is something that we can't even,
yeah,
it's really hard to comprehend eternity,
right?
And that God has been around but it's possible. Eternity is 100% possible if you look at just the way the universe is around us. It's constantly expanding. Like there's no end to it. So obviously eternity is also possible. Then we are just but a blink in time, but there is a question that's being answered through all of this, and that's being answered in the Bible: is God good? And that was what Satan was asking originally in heaven, because there was a war in heaven, which is what the Bible says. There was a war in heaven, and he took a third of the angels, and that is the question that's being answered now. Yes, it's unfortunate that we are on that world that is the world that decided to go and follow Satan and give our hand over, because we're supposed to have dominion over the world. Humans, we are, but we handed that dominion to Satan. We were created to be the ones to we were created in God's image to be able to reproduce, to be able to have dominion over name the animals. We were supposed to be God's family, right? But we handed that to Satan because we didn't trust God. We were like, you know what? We like what Satan is saying over God. Human beings. And we are proving that over and over again. Human beings are still proving that over and over again. And we still have free will.
I personally don't see one thing that you said, where you say we gave said dominion over to Satan with this decision to eat of the apple, eat of the fruit. Pardon me.
Yeah, because what did we say? What did he say the apple was going to give us?
Knowledge of good and evil.
And we were like, that's what we want.
Knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't see how
And
that's
he's evil, man.
diminishing.
He's evil. Satan is the
Okay.
evil. And so we were like, sure, that's what we want. We want the knowledge of good and evil. We want to know. God gave us this environment where we don't stub our toes, we don't die, we don't have children that are sick, we don't have dogs that are being abused, which is something that I can't stand. We don't have, mosquito bites. We don't have, a rose that you pick and it has thorns on it. So we have this perfect, beautiful, amazing environment. We don't have sickness. We don't have death. We don't have aging. We don't have wrinkles. We don't have women bleeding to death when they're giving birth, right? We didn't have any of that. But when Satan came to us and said, hey, I'm going to give you the knowledge of good and evil, I'm going to give you what I have, we were like, okay, we'll take it. And they were the first two humans. And so everyone that's been created after that now has that because that's what they took. But you know what's great about all of that is that we can still accept good and we have a way out of this. And I actually think it's incredibly amazing. The more I think of it, because the more closer to God I get, I'm like, whoa, I get to be part of this controversy that's been happening. And if you look at the revelations, like the people that make it through, we're going to be the ones to tell the story to the universe. And so that so that this will never happen again. Like that's the whole story is that it's not going to happen again, that we're not going to have this disgusting world that we live in right now. That's part of the reason why I've had to really shut down online, because I'm so tired of seeing children being molested. I'm so tired of seeing all of this disgusting things that are online, because we are able to see everything now. Even when you go outside your door, you see death. There's death everywhere. And that's not how we're supposed to be living. But it is a possibility. It is a possibility because again, God gives us free will. So that's where I'm at on that.
That's where you're coming from. Okay. Yeah. We got some big. We could have 1,000 conversations.
It's true.
Right here on Genesis, because I wanted to respond so many times, but we are officially past an hour 30.
Yes, we got a little too deep. And I want to say the reason why I decided to not continue streaming this is because the title is different than the topic, and I think we were.
Well, yeah, I didn't expect it either.
And I would like to. I have been very shy about my religious beliefs online for stupid reasons. But I'm just so tired of being attacked, and I've been attacked so much, and I have been attacked personally by my church a lot. And that's a whole other story. The church has beat me up. So Christians that pretend to be Christians are some of the most evil people. And so I have been very shy about sharing my religious beliefs online. And I really shouldn't be like that, because I think that we do need to have these conversations. And I do believe in the great controversy. I do believe that there is a Satan and there is God, because I've had these supernatural, incredible experiences with God. And also the Bible is an incredible book. But it's just, I just wasn't ready to share with that in this setting.
That's fine.
About all that yet. But I also didn't want to cut our conversation off because I think it was important.
Right. Yeah. You didn't want to be like, hey, I know it's your show, I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah.
No, that's
I'm just not ready yet. And I need to share my testimony first. I need to share, I got really attacked by my own church for my testimony because it was so supernatural. The people call me witch.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Well,
and they banned me from being a teacher in their Christian schools.
Some groups eat their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to the lefties. So, yes. And first of all, I want to acknowledge your own ability to say no and to keep going, so to speak, despite the ugliness that you meet and the betrayal from people who you're supposed to be able to be in real community with. And I appreciate you participating in the conversation, and thank you so very much for everything that we talked about, from the school stuff to personal belief stuff. And yeah, I didn't expect the conversation to necessarily end up where we went either. but I'm just been so open. We have a personality difference, me and you. So that's just
Sure.
what that was.
Mm-hmm.
But I love talking with you. I love that you're always open to, like you said, free thinkers.
I am.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not labelable
Mm-hmm.
by most of the labels
Which I like.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
I piss everybody off.
Mm-hmm.
I piss off the Muslims. I piss off the Christians. Everybody pisses off the Jews. We don't even care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I piss off the political left, the political right, the libertarians. I piss off some anarchists. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I just make everybody mad. I want to thank all of your fans that came through and was hanging out. I want to thank my people for coming through and hanging out. Again, I'll try to stay on top of my multitasking, putting comments that are kind of in line with wherever we are in the conversation on the screen for a few seconds. And Kali, where now I showed people in the beginning, but we're at the end. Where can people find your stuff? You said you might come back, so come on back. Where can we find you when you back?
YouTube is my favorite platform, so I need to start doing more stuff on YouTube. So Kali Fontanilla on YouTube. I
Boom.
think that there is the best thinker, people that actually think on YouTube. It's not just clickbait. We can have these kind of conversations there, and people will stick with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Guys, like the video, subscribe to the channels, subscribe to her channel, and we'll see you tomorrow in the next one. Peace and love.